What a frightening child, thought Andrelius, sitting in his office with a pensive look following his meeting with William. He had heard the latter was perceptive and far more mature than other children, but throughout their conversation, he felt like he was the one being humored. "Having doubts?" asked a deep, spine-chilling feminine voice, followed by the flame in Andrelius's hearth turning a ghostly blue hue. Closing his eyes, Andrelius responded, "Would it matter?" "Does anything truly matter anymore?" asked the voice, prompting the frown on Andrelius's face to deepen. At the same time, though it wasn't obvious at a glance, several strands of his dark brown hair lost their hue. Sensing that Andrelius had no intention of responding, the ghostly blue flames receded, causing the hearth to extinguish. Afterward, a frigid chill spread throughout the spacious office, icy condensation emanating from Andrelius's throat as he exhaled a weary sigh. "Well, that's ominous," thought William, staring at the holographic display that had materialized before him as he was perusing a celebrity-focused magazine and taking a shit atop a heated silver alloy toilet. The quest that appeared was titled Pride's Downfall. It was a link quest of SS rank, with a description that said, "They say the tallest blade of grass is the first to be cut by the scythe, but those who refuse to reach for the sun are starved, fated to wilt in the shadow of others. Uncover the plot against you, and see to it that those who would use you to further their own objectives receive their just deserts." On top of that, there were a couple of ominous optional objectives as well, like burn East Warden to the ground, burn Long Hall to the ground, burn the Thea Ward to the ground, burn the Thear Palace to the ground. The quest promised 100,000 points of karma and another 100,000 for each optional objective completed. Besides that, there was a mysterious item called Pride and Conquest, listed among the rewards. Understanding that Pride was referring to him, William finished his shit and returned to his oversized guest quarters, still in the process of being looked over and secured by Therese, Riza, and Amira. When William, or more accurately, Aiden and his friends first arrived on the mysterious island, they had been instructed to choose one of 7 fruits growing from Yggdrasil's branches. They had been given a tutorial on how to use their systems before that, so they could identify the fruits, but could only guess what their effects were. Aiden's had been a pulsing, heart-like apple called Fruit of the Cardinal Sin Pride, so the implication was that he would be killed if he failed to circumvent the scheme of those plotting against him. "Being born as a noble isn't all advantages," mused William, making his way over to the bed he had brought with him via his Grade B, interspatial bangle. It wasn't as convenient as his inventory, but the tiny gold bangle was worth more than the average mansion or villa. Luckily, unless he took it off and gave it to someone intentionally, it couldn't be removed, and the moment he died, everything inside would be transported to the vault back at Orthair Hall, assuming he wasn't sealed within a subdimensional plane or something similar. Observing William from the corner of her eye, Therese stopped what she was doing to ask, "Are you fatigued? Shall I prepare a pot of black tea?" That would be nice, actually," said William, removing his shoes and lying on his bed. He wasn't actually tired, but it was much easier to think while lying down and relaxing with his eyes closed. Interrupting William's train of thought, Riza rather abruptly asked, "Would you like me to give you a massage?" As he had never received an offer for a massage, at least not in his current life, William briefly considered whether there was an underlying meaning behind Riza's offer before rolling onto his stomach, responding, "Sure," with his head resting atop his crossed arms. Though it was certainly a bit risque, William didn't mind or protest when Riza crawled atop him, plopping her perky posterior on the backs of his legs before hiking up his tunic to expose his muscular back. As a member of the Fili Zoan tribe, Riza had monstrous strength, retractable claws, and fur covering her hands and forearms, but William wasn't bothered by them in the slightest. Rather, he found the pink padding on the tips of her fingers, toes, and the balls of her feet rather endearing. "Master's body has become amazing," remarked Riza, her cat-like pupils expanding as she traced the contours of William's well-defined traps with her thumbs. I'll need to work hard if I want to keep it that way, responded William, noticing a distinct heat on the back of his legs, but disregarding it as, so long as he didn't make a move, Riza would restrain herself. Will you continue your training even while attending the academy? Asked Riza, her voice exuding concern as she added, It's good to work hard and strive to improve, but you should rest more and focus on making friends. And, don't forget, you also need to choose and court a fiancé by the time you graduate. I'm well aware, responded William, thinking back to the many girls he was made to meet and have tea with prior to the start of his training. The Royal Academy was split into 4 distinct cardinal houses based on the kingdom's broader structure. Many of the students he would be living with and learning alongside were descendants of the houses forming the Oerthir constellation, so William didn't need to be a 6-time reincarnator to know a lot of people would be attempting to curry favor with him. That included those who wished to vie for the position of his wife. It would be nice if my parents had another son. Then I could disappear without worry, thought William, beginning to feel sleepy, as Riza was far more skilled at massaging than anticipated. Shall I massage your front next? Asked Riza, her voice low, husky, and tinged with heat. Nah, I'm good, replied William, absent even a shred of hesitation. Riza briefly tensed at his immediate refusal, but instead of pressing the matter further, she focused on massaging his back until Therese arrived with his tea and some snacks she had retrieved from the kitchen. Man, this takes me back, thought William, sitting at a desk within the estate's library. Instead of reading a book, however, he was accessing what was effectively a computer, but colloquially called an IATT, meaning Information Access and Transmission Terminal. There was even intra and broader internet, but it was heavily restricted and monitored, requiring an access card linked to a person's personal information and identity. Fortunately for William, as he lacked an access card, the estate's intranet could be accessed by anyone, so long as they were permitted to enter the library. There were no real websites to access and very few programs that could be run, but it had a search function to allow you to search for books and information related to them. It also had a homepage that refreshed a few times a day to relay news and other important information, so William was able to gain quite a bit of information on the current Braves, the Royal Academy, and various influential figures within the city. Finding a few articles about a demon prodigy who managed to enter the Royal Academy early and complete its curriculum within a year, William was fairly certain it was referring to Dave. The person in question was the same age as him, but if he was right, that meant Dave had, once again, been born as a female. More specifically, he had been reincarnated as a member of the Iramun, the tribe associated with Cantus, the demon king of wrath. As for her name, it was Astucia Dokebi, the 62nd daughter of the demon emperor, Dractus Crimson. More notably, she was the youngest tenured professor in the Royal Academy's history. Unfortunately, though William was almost positive that Astucia was Dave, he couldn't find any information on his other companions. Andrika, Justin, Tom, and Sarah were pretty good at lying low, but he expected to find at least one article related to Z. The closest he found was something about a rising star in the South who had made a name for themselves as a child slave turned gladiatorial champion. But since the person in the article was a girl, William was fairly certain it had nothing to do with his group. Master is amazing, remarked Riza, hovering over William with sparkling eyes. Oh, what makes you say that? Asked William. It's your first time using a terminal, but it only took you a few minutes to figure things out, replied Riza. I'm kind of jealous. I'm good at using my body, but my brain, not so much. Everyone has things they're good at, stated William. There's a reason I chose you, Amira, and Therese to accompany me. Have more confidence in yourself. Really? Can I ask what the reason is? Asked Riza, genuinely curious as she wasn't entirely sure why William had chosen her. She understood why he picked Amira and Therese, as they were super capable, but all she was good at was fighting and tracking people. I view you as kind of an older sister, responded William, tilting his head back and inadvertently resting it against Riza's breasts as he stated, "I'm comfortable around you, and believe you will do everything in your power to protect me, just as I would protect you." "Master," muttered Riza, her eyes watering before she abruptly wrapped her arms around him, squeezing like a vice as she exclaimed, "You're such a cutie." Sparing William from the awkwardness of being choked out by the person hired to protect him, the librarian in charge of the library loudly cleared his throat. Riza attempted to apologize for the disruption, but when William told her not to worry about it, much to the librarian's chagrin, she ceased caring immediately. Prompted by the sound of someone ringing the bell to William's room, Therese emerged from the hatch connecting to the servant quarters she shared with Riza and Amira in a vanilla nightgown, wand at the ready as she asked, "Were you expecting guests, young master?" Rising to a seated position atop his bed, William smiled and responded, "Not in particular," while grasping the sword he kept at his side, just in case. Frowning deeply, Therese grumbled, "How rude," as she approached the door. She was prepared to lay into whoever was standing outside, but she promptly changed her mind when she opened the door and found that the culprit was David. Closing her eyes and bowing, Therese controlled her expression and tone, stating, "This humble servant recognizes and admires the beta star of the Oerthier constellation. You may raise your head. Afterward, leave us," said David, gesturing for Therese to rise. He didn't actually have the authority to dismiss Therese, but as William had previously told her not to complicate things by asking him for permission in such instances, she promptly excused herself after bowing to them both. "I wasn't expecting you to come to me first," mused William, wearing a cheeky smile as he remained in bed. "Your outward appearance changes drastically each time we meet, but your personality is still as vexing as ever," remarked David, adopting a smile of his own. His perspective had broadened considerably after his arrival in Axial and enrollment in the Royal Academy, so he was no longer as awkward as he was in the past, approaching William with confidence as he stated, "I happen to have some free time and wish to speak to you before you visited and enrolled at the Academy. I have no doubt that you can take care of yourself, but it will make things difficult for us both if you stand or act out too much." Handing William a pamphlet and a sealed envelope, David explained, "There is a social club made up of elite, high-ranking nobility within the Academy. I am one of the 4 representatives representing our family and the students of the Oerthier Commons. I have arranged to formally introduce and have you inducted into our ranks at a party scheduled 2 days from now. You can find the relevant information in that pamphlet. I would appreciate it if you chose to attend." "How cute! He's learned how to gaslight people?" mused William, smiling as he replied, "Of course. However, if you plan to appoint me as an officer or something similar, I would advise against it. No one likes it when those in power use it to promote those who've yet to prove themselves." "I thought you might say that," responded David, retrieving and opening the pamphlet with a smug, shit-eating grin. As for why, it was because the theme of the party was a martial exhibition,